Hey guys, it's the WalterFootball.com After Dark Show for December 12th, 2024. We're going to be doing the Week 15 Fantasy Football Rundown show. So if you guys have any questions, just let us know. Just leave them in the chat. We'll get to them. Before we get into the intros, please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video. Visit the link in the description of the merch store. So you can see I'm wearing a Biden Poop This Pants shirt, which you can get on the merch store. And last week, Kenny asked me, hey, where's the Hunter Biden shirts? They are coming, I promise. I've been brainstorming some ideas. I haven't designed them yet, but I will in the coming days. So I think by this time next week we will have them. So something to look forward to. I think there are going to be two different shirts with the Hunter Biden stuff. Yeah, but you can get 20% off these shirts, 20% off the apron as well. So yeah, I mean, buying these shirts certainly helps the show. You can go to Amazon, buy my books. The most recent one is Jerks of the College Years, where I made fun of people at Penn State. As you can see, here by the cover, I ran into a lot of weird people at Penn State. And if you like Jerks of the Week, this is basically a long-form version of it. Also, I wrote a book called How the 2020 MVP Was Stolen, which was an expose where I did a lot of research on how Brett Favre tried to sabotage Aaron Rodgers' 2020 MVP award. So it's an amazing story. So if you guys haven't read it, I urge you to check it out. Or you can support us with super chats and super stickers. We've had some great ones the past couple of weeks. Drove a show yesterday. Slew and John Sanders the week before. Can't Make an Eagle, Jesse Cintron as well. You guys have been so awesome with your support. Like, I can't say it enough. Like, it really keeps the show going because YouTube ads pay nothing. I wish they paid more, but they do pay nothing. So you guys are really the backbone of the show and just really help out a lot. So I can't say enough how much it helps. So all right, we are joined tonight by Kenny. The cap is fake. Kenny, how are you? How was your week 14? And I guess that was the end of the regular fantasy football season. So how did your regular fantasy football season go?
By the way, how am I doing? My life has been crazy the last few days, so I'm having a little bit of a Coke and Captain.
Very nice.
Oh, is that kind of night? Yeah, kind of crazy. But fantasy football, I'm only in 2 season-long leagues this year. And I was in a Survivor League and done some other stuff, but 2 traditional fantasy season-long leagues. I'm in the playoffs in both. I got a first-round bye in one league, and I'm the 3rd seed in our league. You and I are our home league. We are. I'm the 3rd seed, and by the way, I have been in the 18 seasons. This is my 18th season, I think, in that league.
Mm-hmm.
In the 18 seasons in that league, I have been the 3 seed 3 times before. This is my 4th time being the 3 seed.
Mm-hmm.
The 3 previous times I was a 3 seed, I went to the championship game all 3 times.
Okay.
So it's that's pretty good. I like the 3 seed. It's good for me, I guess. Who needs a first round bye? My guys don't need a rest.
No, of course. Yeah, you want to play. You want to be fresh. You know?
Exactly. So no, I think we're doing pretty good. Also, if anyone watching has ever been interested or familiar with the Enneagram, tell us what your Enneagram type is. Me and Walt were just talking about it. I'm very curious if people's Enneagrams types.
Yes. This is the first time I'm hearing of this. So briefly, you have the perfectionist, the helper, the achiever, the individualist, the investigator, the loyalist, the enthusiast, the challenger, and the peacemaker. Kenny introduced me to this, and I will try to figure out what I am. I think I'm a 5, a 6, or a 7 because I have no shame or heart. And then anger, I'm pretty stoic. So by default, it has to be maybe not fear, but head and doing. Like all I do is work nonstop. So it has to be one of those 3 on the left. So yeah, I don't know. You guys let us know what you are if you've ever heard of this, or if you haven't heard of this, let us know as well. But yeah, we can talk about this, or we can get into fantasy. But Sue has a question. Kenny, do you agree that only a Viking would step on Jason Ace? That is as a reference from Jerks of the Week this week, where I was having a conversation with my son, who confused the hell out of me because I asked him what happened in school, and he said he stepped on Jace, and like I was so confused. I was like, why? And then he's like, no, I stepped on Ace, and like I was like, oh, did you mean Ace and not Jace? He's like, no, I stepped on Jace, and like it kept on going back and forth. It was like it was like one of those who's on first like conversations. It turns out like there are two kids named Jace and Ace, and I was like so confused. I thought like I don't know, I thought he didn't know what the name was, or if he was confusing. But there were two people. I don't know why he's stepping on these people. It's like another issue. But I posted that conversation on Jerks of the Week this week. So all right. So yeah, if you guys want to talk about Instagrams, you can do that. But we can also talk about what happened in fantasy football. So like I said, leave your questions here. We'll get to them, and then we'll go game by game and talk about our observations. Going back all the way last week to Thursday night, the Lions beat the Packers 34-31. There's some questionable, play calling by Dan Campbell. I didn't mind the going for it on fourth down at the very end to kind of drain all the clock. Going for it on fourth down at your own 31, though, that was very, very questionable. There was that joke where actually Evan, our Tuesday co-host, texted me and he said Dan Campbell would hit on 18. I'm like, Dan Campbell would hit on 21. So, I'd say he's like one of those guys. It's insane. But it does work for him. So you can't really complain too much if you're a Lions fan. I mean, like, look at the Lions before him, right? In this game, what stood out to me is that Jaden Reed didn't catch a single pass. It was a good matchup, too. The Lions had allowed a lot of production to slot receivers. But Jaden Reed just, I don't know what was going on. He had a catch overturned by replay, and then that was it. He didn't do anything else, which was very frustrating as someone who had his over receiving yards prop. Josh Jacobs didn't have too many yards, but 3 touchdowns. So this is a difficult matchup, but it just goes to show that just because your elite fantasy player has a difficult matchup, doesn't mean that you should avoid them. Now, you could downgrade them a little bit if you have other elite players. Sure, you can play the other elite players over them, but you want to play your elite players no matter what. And then on the Lions side, Jahmyr Gibbs scored a touchdown through the air, Montgomery on the ground. So, that continued. Amon-Ra St. Brown had a disappointing performance, 5 for 43. So I think he bounces back this week against the Bills, who are struggle against slot receivers. Tim Patrick, 6 for 43, 2 touchdowns. I'm so happy that Tim Patrick panned out because he was one of my sleepers in the summer before the Broncos inexplicably cut him. I don't understand why. Like, he would be a good number 2 for them right now. But no, I mean, he's coming on here. So what are your thoughts on this game?
The play calling. I mean, Dan Campbell's getting. It was Dan Campbell, right? Did I just have a brain fart?
Yeah, it's Dan Campbell.
Okay, why is it? You ever? In my mind, I'm like, wait a minute, it's not Dan Campbell, it's something else. I'm only here to tell.
That's someone tweeted that at me and then blocked me. I'm like, okay, what are these consequences? That'll be in the hate mail next week for sure.
I understand Camp. Like, it's kind of Campbell's MO. Like, I think like anyone, I think to some extent maybe people don't realize because obviously the Lions haven't been good. People don't pay attention to them. Really, even last year, people didn't really. I don't think people really took them seriously and paid attention to them well into into the playoffs. It seemed like so. Maybe this is like the first time where like the national audience is really trying to get an understanding. Like, Campbell's been doing this stuff his entire time he's been in Detroit. This is not out of the ordinary for him. So I don't know. I found like sometimes he makes calls and I'm like, yeah, it's questionable. What I found to be odd to me was the Friday morning blowback. Was like, why are all these people like all over this guy on social media and the talking heads on TV? And I'm like, oh, they don't actually pay attention. They don't actually watch the games. like it just like it reminds you like, oh, most people who are analysts don't actually know what they're analyzing. So sure. I think that's like the anyway. Suspect. I don't love it, but like I don't know. He's been doing it. It is what it is. I think honestly, like, Campbell's not the one that almost cost him this game. Jared Goff had some spotty moments. The defense had some spotty moments. Now they've got injuries, so that's part of it. But yeah, I also just guys, Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers are a good team. I think people just don't realize that. So trying to keep if they get the ball back, if Jordan Love get the ball back with any amount of time, I don't know, I'm confident he's going to go down the field and at least get a field goal. So I don't know. I don't. All that to say, trying to run the clock and his play call at the end, I totally get it. I think it makes sense to me. From a fantasy standpoint, I think it kind of is what it is. I don't trust any. You mentioned Jaden Reed. Would you agree? Do you think Jaden Reed's the best receiver of the bunch on that team? Yeah, right. Sure. He's clearly the best, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever this is a good offense with a good quarterback. At any given time, he can go off. We've seen that all this year with Jaden Reed. Has there been a receiver this good that you've ever trusted this little? Like legitimately as good as he is, I think he's in standard scoring, he's a top 10 receiver because he's had some boom weeks. And yet I regularly find myself, I have him in one league, I regularly find myself benching him because I don't trust him. Yeah. And so I don't know what you do with him going to the playoffs because the goose egg is a very real possibility. I guess you have to start him, I guess, but I don't feel good about it. Josh Jacobs is great. You get a lot of great players in these teams. Obviously, if you've got them, you're starting them. But the one player of these two teams that I think is the biggest question mark, that if you're heading into the fantasy play, you don't know what to do. It's Jaden Reed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's because they have so many weapons. Now, Romeo Doubs didn't even play, so it's more surprising than usual that he didn't do anything. He's perfect to have in best ball. I'm not perfect, but yeah, he's more he's a better fit in best ball because you don't need to worry about starting. That's the beauty of it. Like I find myself liking best ball more and more. I had 29 teams make the playoffs, so we'll see. Hopefully, we get some advancement from them. But no, I like it. It is tough to make that decision each week. And like I said, this was a good matchup for him. It's not like this is a tough matchup. The Lions have pass funnel defense. They have a lot of production to slot receivers. Like Jaden Reed should have gone off. I don't understand this performance at all. So maybe he bounces back. There could be a squeaky wheel against the grease opportunity here. I think there's a better version of that later, as we'll discuss. But yeah, while it is risky, the fact that he had a 0, I think makes it more likely that he's going to produce more in the coming weeks. Just after the 0, I think he bounces back. Kenny's done the Christian Watson last week. Look what he did in the Lions game. Change the tune, Kenny. 4 for 114. So with Watson, he is boom or bust. Like he is another guy. I drafted Watson a lot in best ball. Like just because he goes off or he does nothing. Like
I kind of forgot that I totally dogged him last week. I did. Sorry.
Yeah, he either goes off or does nothing. He's one of those hit or miss guys. John says the rich man's Gabe Davis. I think Watson is like Gabe Davis, like when he was with the Bills, right? Like probably a little bit better, I think. But
I think John Sanders might be. I think he's referring to Jaden Reed, maybe.
I know. I'm just saying that like Watson is
you're
like.
You're saying that Watson is the Okay.
Right. But Reed is the rich man's Gabe Davis, and Watson is Gabe Davis.
Yeah, that's probably true. It's a bummer because I thought about this week. I was thinking, has there been a player I think that's this talented in this kind of offense that I've trusted this little over the years? And there might be one. There might be, but this is toward the top in terms of. I mean, I guess Deebo Samuel would be also in that conversation. He's totally unstartable at this point. But I feel like there's not a player that I have felt this way about for a while.
I'll have to think about it. It's a good question. If you guys have any ideas, let us know in the chat. I don't know. There has to be some. I just not thinking of them. But yeah, well, let's move on to the next game. We have whoever the editor is at this website just needs to be fired. Horrible. All right, so Vikings, not the Falcons, win 42-21. This is a 21-21 game, and then the Vikings scored. They went ahead. And then there was a fumble kickoff return, and then the Vikings scored easily, and then Cousins got intercepted in the end zone. Cousins has thrown so many interceptions, I think 8 interceptions in the last 3 games, and no touchdowns, by the way, in that span. He's been awful. So you have to wonder when he's going to get benched. Bijan was excellent, though, despite the despite Cousins' gaffes, Darnell Mooney has been terrific. 6 for 142. He's had I don't know I don't know the exact numbers, but he's had one of the highest advancement rates in best ball. Just because he was drafted super late and he's like way outproduced his draft status. It was like Drake London at 5 for 70. He's been solid all year. Like not too many boom weeks, but he's been like pretty consistent, like 12 to 19 points each week. As far as the Vikings are concerned, Jordan Addison is really coming to his own. 8 for 133 and 3 touchdowns. Jefferson finally gets into the end zone, first time in a long while. 7 for 132 and 2 touchdowns.
Like 7 weeks.
Yeah, it was a long time. But
Crazy.
yeah, he gets there. He gets there twice. Sam Darnold is awesome. 5 touchdowns. Gets this horrible Atlanta defense. So I mean, the matchup was great, and he took care of it. Aaron Jones was solid as well. Any thoughts on this game?
Yeah, there not much to add here. The Jefferson not scoring touchdowns just a fluky thing. Like it wasn't like he was incapable. Obviously, we know he's a great player. The one thing I walk away from a real football standpoint, man, this Falcons team. If you are a gambler, I am not. But if you're a bettor, man, betting against this team with Kirk Cousins right now feels like a really good bet. Cousins doesn't look right to me. He doesn't look like he's 100%, and I gotta wonder when they're gonna sit him. Like he just like I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they won't, and maybe Pennick is just not ready at all. And I guess that's fine. The other thing I'll mention, Tyler Algier, I think as of this morning, was only owned in like 39% of Yahoo leagues, and like he's owned in 49% of ESPN leagues. So basically, like in more than half of all the leagues, pretty much in America, Tyler Algier is a free agent, which I don't understand. So if he's a free agent in your league and you can pick him up, because he would be amazing if Bijan would get hurt. Like he's a league winner type guy. So yeah, if he's available in your league, go get him right now.
Yeah, of all the handcuffs, he's near the top. I'm not counting guys who are currently starting now, like Charbonnet and Garendo and those guys. Obviously, those should be owned. Like they're premier plays right now. But the guys who are handcuffs at this moment, like Algier is in the top 3, I think. And so yeah, I think he's my second highest owned best ball player, Algier. So I kept drafting him in like round 14. So I was just counting on Robinson to get hurt, but he keeps producing. Like he had a solid game, and so he made it into the lineup for some of my teams. John with the 411 super chat. Thank you so much, John. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, man, John.
Absolutely. Sit 1 of 4 in PPR. Jonathan Taylor, Chase Brown, Brian Robinson, or Josh Jacobs. I would sit Taylor. Denver defense is pretty tough. Whereas like Chase Brown does everything for that offense, even if it's a tough run defense matchup, which Tennessee should be. Chase Brown's going to get his receptions. He's had at least 30 receiving yards in every game, and ever since Zach Moss got hurt. Brian Robinson has a great matchup this week against the Saints, and then Josh Jacobs, he's a stud. And I guess you could say Taylor is too, but I'd say Jacobs also has a tough matchup, but Jacobs can also catch passes out of the backfield, whereas Jonathan Taylor is not doing as much receiving work this year because Anthony Richardson would rather go deep than dump all passes like Minshew. So what are your thoughts on this one?
To me, I'm never sitting Jacobs. He's just too good. We just saw it on Thursday night. Mm-hmm. Like he's too good. He can go off anytime. If he goes off my bench, I'd just go nuts. I wouldn't be able to. I'd be total full tilt. And Chase Brown, he's my boy. I got to ride with him. And so, yeah, to me, those are the easy ones. Robinson and Taylor. Oh man, it's a toss up. I think I've said this in weeks past. For me, I think Taylor has more upside. I think Robinson has better floor. I think Robinson's safer because I think there's a legitimate chance for a goose egg with Taylor. Like not a total goose egg, but like 10 carries for 30 yards is in the realm of possibility with Taylor. Not Taylor's fault, but because of the offense, because of the quarterback, they could totally get away from him or, the situation. But Taylor is a stud in his own right. He's a talent, and he can have 100 yards and 3 touchdowns any week. So I think it's a situation like if you need more upside, I think I'd lean to put Taylor in, sit Robinson. Mm-hmm. If you want safer floor, I think Robinson has a is safer than Taylor.
Yeah, remember, Eckler's out too, so that's going to help out Robinson. Something to watch out for with the Colts is that they had severe offensive line issues heading into the bye. In Week 13, they were missing their top two centers, the right guard and the right tackle. The right guard's on IR, so he's not coming back. So if they get one of their centers back and the right tackle back, that Braden Smith's really good, then suddenly, yeah, you can make a better case for Taylor. But if all those linemen are out, then you probably should start Robinson, I think. Narrative about Penix. Yeah, Penix should be ready to go. Like, he's 24. But still, I mean, he hasn't played in the NFL. Like, there's going to be some adjustment period where it's like it's going to be like a lesser time frame than someone who's raw, like a Drake May, for example. But yeah, I think that like Penix, he should be like it shouldn't take him too long. I don't think so. Sitting his first round pick. Well, sometimes you have to. All right. Let's. Before we move on, I wanted to get your take on this. I'm going to post this on the site. Evan talked me into this one. Actually, he pointed out to me. Now, I know you're not a gambler, so this is hypothetical, right? What are your thoughts on this prop? Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison to both record 100 yards plus 100 plus receiving yards and 1 touchdown each against the Bears. Now, you might be thinking, okay, this might be tough. Although they just did it, this might be tough. This is 80-1.
I guess it's just 80-1 is great value.
81's insane, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm still it's to me it's no more than like a 2-unit bet max.
Oh yeah, I'm not gonna bet a lot on $50 to win $4,000.
Yeah,
I'll do it.
Yeah, the probability of it happening. In fact, actually, now that I think about it, 80-1 is if you had asked me what the odds would be, I might have said it at 100-1 or 120-1.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, two receivers both having 100 yards and a touchdown in one game is, I guess, pretty. I don't know how often it's happened, but it can't be that.
It just did this game.
I know it just
like,
happened.
You know, and they had 2 touchdowns each at least,
which means the probability of it happening again feels even low.
I guess it's an easy. I don't know. It's an easy matchup. I don't know.
I'd have to go back and see how often it's like how often does it happen that both guys score a touchdown? You know, it's so often it goes back and forth, right? It's one guy eating. They both have a slight floor. They both have a certain amount of yards. I'd be curious to know just historically, or even in the last 17 years since 2007. Since the passing revolution started, how often has one team had one receiver or two receivers go for 100 and a touchdown each? I can't imagine it's happened a lot of times.
I would say this: Jordan Addison against the Bears in the first meeting, 162 yards and a touchdown. But
what was Jefferson in that game?
Jefferson didn't do anything.
I would say it's always one or the other.
I know, but it's 80-1. It's not like 2-1. It's not 10-1. It's 80-1. $50 to win $4,000. I'll do it. Like, why not? Like, I don't know. I won't miss the $50. It'll be fun to root on. I'm sure Hill and Waddle have done it before. Yeah, I'm willing to bet. I bet Randy Moss and Wes Walker did it in 2007. I'm sure
those guys did a lot of things.
Yeah,
and I would imagine that like AJ Brown and Devontae Smith has done it. Like,
yeah,
or Chris Carter and Jake Reed probably did it once in the 90s. Isaac Bruce and Torrey Holt probably did it once. Like, yes, but like the fact that we can name these guys is it's the proof that it doesn't happen that often.
Yeah, like I said, it is a long shot. 80-1 is pretty high, but still, like I think it could happen. But we'll see. So I'm curious though to do the research on that. I wonder if Jason Higgins ever got close to that. I'm sure they have. I don't know. We'll see. Betting them to combine for 202. Yeah, that would be a lot better. And unfortunately, you need both. So like that's why it's 80-1. If they needed to combine for 202, that would be like 4-1, I think, because like all you need is one guy to go for 130 and a touchdown, and then the other guy only needs 70, like or 70 and a touchdown. But it's still, maybe it's not 4-1, maybe it's like 6-1. I don't know, but still, I think that sure MVS and Kevin Austin have done it before. That's true. All right. So Keith asking who to start: Shakir, Garendo, or Patrick Taylor, Waddle, Thielen, Swift. Well, okay. So he's saying Garendo or Patrick Taylor. Okay, I see. Well, I think that I want the Niner running back. So yeah, if obviously it's Grendo, if he's out, then Patrick Taylor. I think I play them over any of the other guys. What do you think?
Yeah, probably. I've only got one guy of this whole bunch here.
Yeah.
I don't know. Oh man, Thielen's looked good the last few weeks, man. He's been really sharp. Bryce Young's playing really well right now. Shakir has a really high floor. It feels like a cop out. I'm going to go back to my same argument. I feel like the Niner running back has the highest upside, but this Patrick Taylor guy, like all of his work was in garbage time. Dude, is he really that good? Are they like I don't know. There's a goose egg available there. Like 10 carries for 31 yards is on the table for whoever that ends up being. So I don't know. If you need upside, the 49er running back is certainly the best bet. If you need high floor and safety, Shakir and PPR has been as safe as they come. I don't know.
Yeah.
Another guy I dogged last week.
Shakir, he's been coming on. I just did the research. AJ Brown, Devontae Smith. In October of 2023, AJ Brown had 130 and 2 touchdowns. Devontae Smith now count 99 and a touchdown. So 1 yard away. So it almost happened last.
It doesn't hit.
It doesn't hit, but yeah, I don't know. It's 1 yard. I don't know. I'm only taking a chance on 1 yard. Yeah, Kincaid is back. So
in the 3 years they played together, they've only one time.
Yeah, I only looked at 2023. I didn't look at 2022 yet.
I wonder in 2022 if they did it in 2022. They went off so many times that year.
Yeah. I was just doing it very quickly. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, Kincaid's back. I'd stay away from Shakir. That's a good point. All right, so let's move on. Jaguars 10, Titans 6. Thriller in Jacksonville here. So not much to say here. Like Tony Pollard looked good. 21 for 102. He has a great matchup against Cincinnati. Rico Doodle, as we call him. He ran for 130 yards on the Cowboys on Monday night. So Pollard gets that same matchup. So I've been talking about Pollard all year for his fantasy playoff schedule. It's outstanding. So he should do well here. Ridley 759. No surprise that Nick Westbrook-Akine. Now that I didn't go against him in fantasy, didn't do anything. Like I love that. Like I had a must win in our league. In week 13, and then I go against Nick Westbrook-Akine, who scores 2 touchdowns. It's so great. The Jaguars, Tank Bigsby out carried ATN 18-4. So that was encouraging to see because sometimes the Jaguars don't always run the best running back. And then Brian Thomas Jr. 8 for 86. So even though he was playing with Mac Jones, he still had a solid PPR game. Didn't get into the end zone, so not great in standard, but PPR is good. So what are your thoughts on this one, if you have any?
Oh, man. If you own any of these players, don't start any of them. Tony Pollard, I guess.
Pollard, yeah.
But I got to be honest, man. Like, even Pollard, like, if I've got a borderline option, this team is just playing so bad right now. I just, like, they're so inconsistent. They're just so inconsistent. And Jacksonville right now, like a couple weeks ago, I said don't start anyone except Brian Thomas. I can't even start Brian Thomas anymore, right? Like, he had 0 catches until I forget when his first catch in the game came. It was like super late in the game.
Yeah.
You're just like, and Mac Jones, man. Like I've never seen anyone who, man, that guy loves to throw the ball before the line of scrimmage. Like he loves throwing the ball. Like he hates throwing the ball past the line of scrimmage. Like he's allergic to it. Like, I've never seen a guy who was checked down to a guy who's 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage. I've never seen it like that. So anyway, yeah, if you can help it, man, I wouldn't start any Jacksonville Jaguars, and I'm not starting any Titans except maybe Tony Pollard. But even then, if I've got another option, I'm seriously thinking about it.
Yeah, I'm in the playoffs in 2 of my 3 leagues. The lone exception is the one that we're in together because I was like in the top 6 of scoring And of course, they didn't make it. That's usual for me. And I ran into Nicholas Repikine, that buzzsaw. In the other two leagues, I have Pollard, and I'm starting him. I'm looking forward to it. So I like the matchups that he has in the playoffs. I did this real quick. Eagles 35, Titans 10 in 2022. AJ Brown 119-2. Devontae Smith 102-1. So there you go. That was another one. So that was the only game I looked at so far in 2022. So there might be more. So it does happen. Like 80-1 seems like pretty good to me. Like I like it. This does happen. Anyway, Stanley asking, hey Walter, if you were Deion Sanders, who is going to have a say in his where his son goes, according to Charlie Campbell, which situation would be better for Shador Sanders between the Giants and the Raiders? I think it has to be, despite the what Kenny's going to say, your soul's going to be sad. I think it's the Giants because they have a number one receiver in Malik Neighbors. Now the Raiders do with Brock Bowers, but and I like the Giants offensive line better when Andrew Thomas is playing. Like when they have Andrew Thomas and Jermaine Illuminor, they actually block pretty well. So I like that offensive line. If you're talking about Brian Daboll versus Antonio Pierce, now I don't know if either is going to be there, but at the moment I would trust Daboll more. So I like the situation better for the Giants. Then again, if you go to the Raiders, you don't have to pay state tax, so that's nice too. And your soul's not sad. So what do you think? There?
The soul being sad is a big deal. If I were him, man, I don't. You're much more confident in the Giants. I would not. That team's been dysfunctionally run for a while too.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I'd want my kid to go to either one of those places. If I had to pick, if you're going to put a gun in my head and make me bet $1 on which of those two it's going to go to, I guess the Giants would be the better bet. But yeah, I don't know that I want to go there. Honestly.
Yeah, I hear you. It's not great, but it's better than some of the alternative teams like like the Titans could realistically be up here or the Browns. I'd rather go to one to see. Although the Browns have a good line and they have Njoku. I know you don't like Njoku, but still. Belichick signed back to UNC. I'm not sure how the transfer portal works. I can't believe Belichick's going to UNC.
I can't believe it either.
It's so weird. Anyway, we have Buccaneers.
He's not the kind of guy who wants to sit in a living room of some punk-nosed 17-year-old and do recruiting. Like,
I don't know.
He's not going to recruit, right? He's not going to go out to recruit. He's going to just say, look at my 6 Super Bowl rings.
He just sends a picture on the phone. Here's my rings. Come to the team. For sure. That's what he's going to do. Buccaneers 28, Raiders 13. This is 14-13 for a while. And then Aiden O'Connell got hurt. And then Baker Mayfield stopped turning the ball over. And then they got going. Rachaad White, 17 for 90 in the touchdown. Bucky Irving, nowhere to be seen. He had a back issue heading into the game. It was a hip issue and then his back tightened. So you have to worry about that on two fronts. And so if you have Irving heading to the fantasy playoffs, like, it's a rough scene because you don't know if he's going to play this week, and if he does play, he could just leave the game early. So it's a tough situation. I don't know if I'd start him unless like he gets in some full practices. Then I'd be more optimistic. But otherwise, just can't get there. Like, and Rachaad White can catch passes out of the backfield. It's a good matchup against the Chargers too if Denzel Perriman's out. So whichever Tampa Bay running back starts, I like this week. Also like Mike Evans this week, 4 for 69 here, not great, but it's a plus matchup against the Chargers, who've been somewhat weak to number one receivers. And then here, the Raiders, Brock Bowers disappointed us. We had his over receiving prop. He got banged up in this game, and he missed some snaps, and he returned. But I don't know if he was 100%. He caught a deep pass at the end of the game, so maybe he was. It just took him for a while to recover, I guess. And then you have a Sincere McCormick getting most of the carries here. I don't know. I don't know if I play him, but 15 for 78. It's worth noting if you're somehow in the playoffs and you're like desperate for running back, like maybe you can try him, but I don't know. What are your thoughts on this game?
This is the first game, by the way, where Baker Mayfield really played poorly in this game. Made a lot of poor decisions, overthrows, really inaccurate passing. It felt very uncharacteristic for late stage Baker Mayfield. 2020 version of Baker Mayfield, this would have been a very normal game. But 2024 Baker Mayfield, I expect more from. So yeah, if he's going to play like this, that's going to depress the value of these assets on the team. So you hope that it's just an aberration, and you hope they just. And I think you have to just bet on that. Like I think you have to just sort of go, okay, he had a bad game, and whatever, it happens, and shrug it off, and he'll be fine. But if he has another bad game, man, there could be a 2 for 15 come in the books for Mike Evans. If you're a Mike Evans owner, that'll make you feel good. So anyway, let's hope that's not the case. I think you have to just assume that that's not the case. I think you're 100% right. Bucky Irving, my boy, not being in the game, bummer. Rachaad White, though, I will listen. I have bagged on Rachaad White as much as anyone. So when a player is good, I got to give him props. He actually played really well in this game. It wasn't empty calories. So maybe his time as a backup the last few weeks, second fiddle has kind of told him something. I don't know. There's a theme here. Guys that I've bagged on the last few weeks, all of a sudden playing great in week 14. Week 14, right? Yeah. So I don't know. Something was weird. It's glitch in the matrix, I guess. I don't know. But so anyone I bagged on the last 2 or 3 weeks, you should bet on them for week 15, I guess. I don't know. But
it's probably like a group text going around. Like, this guy is bagging on us. Like, let's show him.
The Raiders. Oh gosh, I don't want anything to do with any of these players except the tight end. Tight end is the only one you want on this team. The rest of them, oh gosh. You mentioned McCormick. Man, if you're in the fantasy playoffs and you are absolutely desperate for running back, you should just be thankful that you made the playoffs and just prepare to lose.
Well, it could make sense. Like, what if you made the playoffs and you had if you had Breece Hall, Bucky Irving, and I don't know, someone else who's injured now or something, or you have one good running back and you have an RB2, you have such a hole because Hall's out, and maybe you picked up Jordan Mason and he's out, and then Bucky Irving's out, and you're like stuck. Like, it could happen. So yeah, since you're McCormick, I guess he's getting most of the workload. I think you have to worry about Alexander Madison coming back and taking away touches too. So watch that injury report. I don't know. You're not getting much out of McCormick, I don't think. But it's not a bad matchup though against Atlanta.
Yeah, I'd be really nervous to start him. You got to be pretty desperate to start a Raiders running back that, I don't know. He just doesn't look good. His numbers are okay because he's getting a lot of volume, but that could go away so easily.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know. I would be really nervous to start him.
Yeah. So the high volume guys on bad teams tend not to do well. We had one on this very team heading into the season with Zamir White. He was being drafted in 6th round or something, or 7th round.
Higher in some places.
Yeah, and you were all over that. You're like, I don't draft this guy at all.
It sucks.
Yeah, like draft good players on good teams. That's how you're gonna win, I think.
Right.
Anyway, so we have Steelers 27, Browns 14. Jameis Winston started hot in this game. He threw a 35-yard touchdown to Jerry Jeudy, who continues to be on fire, 5 for 64 and a touchdown. But they didn't really do much after that until garbage time. And Njoku got there, though, 7 for 42 and a touchdown. I continue to love Njoku, and he has a great fantasy football playoff schedule. So he's a good tight end to own. But yeah, it's another bad game for Chubb, 11 for 48. He just does not look 100%. And with Jonathan Brooks going down for Carolina, he tore his ACL, tried to come back, tore his ACL again. I'm wondering, why is Chubb even playing? It just seems so irresponsible. It's not like the Browns have a chance to make the playoffs or anything. They're a dead team, so why give Chubb an opportunity to re-injure himself? It just seems so stupid. For Steelers, no more moon balls for Russell Wilson with George Pickens out. I made the stupid decision to start Calvin Austin in one of my DraftKings lineups in my my $100 spy lineup, because he was right above the bare minimum and there was no Pickens, and I'm like, all right, this guy can catch a deep touchdown, and he's super cheap, and he allows me to get to a lot of other things. Unfortunately, the other thing is busted too, so it didn't matter. So even if he went off, I don't think I would have cashed. So, but still, I feel like one of these receivers is going to maybe do well this week against the Eagles, because Pickens is gonna be out again. So is it gonna be Mike Williams, Scotty Miller, Van Jefferson, Calvin Austin? I don't know. I don't mind starting Calvin Austin again in DFS. I don't think I'm going to do it because there's it's a much better cheap option this week. But I don't think he's like the worst play either. At I think he's like 3,600 or something. But anyway, and then the running backs who continue to just both be mediocre. So what are your thoughts on this game?
By the way, you just said something I think is it's such the most alluring. It sucks you in. You said, in DFS, the cheap player, it allows you to get to other things you want to get to. It's such a true trap. It's this player, in your heart of hearts that this guy is not good and probably is not going to give you the points you need. But you're just he's just so cheap. I can rationalize it, and it lets me put other I've fallen for it many times.
I know.
It just sucks you in.
I know. I have a very cheap guy this week. I want to get your opinion on when we get to the team.
You're just the tight end. He's only 2,800.
Right.
You're so. Anyway, I got this. Okay. Jameis Winston, man, I tell you, Jameis Winston, he's my favorite player to watch right now. This guy is so good and so bad. And he's so entertaining. I love it. I love the quotes. I usually think the sideline question, reporter asking the coach questions that they go in the halftime. I usually think that's a total waste of time. I'm annoyed by it. Why are you asking stupid questions to the coach? It drives me crazy. But not with Jameis Winston. I want more as much Jameis as I can get. He's so entertaining. He's so stupid. I love it. Anyway, I'm totally digressing. I'm totally off the rails here right now. But I don't know that I would have agreed with you a week ago on the Nick Chubb point you made. But I do think I agree with you now. I don't know. Maybe he's 100%. He's fine and whatever. Okay, but I don't know. Part of me, man, we all saw that devastating injury that Chubb had last year on national TV. I mean, it was ugly. And part of you is just oh gosh, but he's one injury away from being done, right? I mean, he might already be done, but honestly, yeah, it's a bummer. From a fantasy perspective, Jerry Jeudy is kind of a must start, right? It must start. I don't know if there's anyone else I feel that way about in Cleveland. I know you love Njoku more than I do. I mean, if he's your tight end, it's fine. Tight end position is a slop anyway. Speaking of slop tight ends, Pete on the other side, Pete Freiermuth on this stuff. So, I mean, this Pittsburgh team, I don't know what to make of them. I don't know that I trust any of these fantasy options. You can't trust Najee Harris or Jalen Warren because I don't know who's going to get the ball the most. Mm-hmm. Against the Eagles this week, it's a tough matchup. So, at the end of the day, if you own any Steelers in fantasy, and I'm not even sure there's any upside in DFS for any of these guys, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But there's no one priced at a point where you go, oh yeah, you want to get to one of those guys in your lineup. They feel like bumps.
Yeah, I mean, DFS, like I said, the super cheap options are okay. But yeah, I mean, Pickens has been priced up, so you can't even play him if he's active. And yeah, the running backs, they cancel each other out. Freiermuth's fine, but rather than get to Freiermuth, I'd rather, and we used to talk about this all the time when we did the DFS show. My strategy with tight ends was pay all the way up for the studs who can get you 20 plus points, like Bowers now or Trey McBride, or go super cheap and just punt completely and hope to get your guy to get into the end zone and score 7 or 8 points, and then that'll be good enough. So Freiermuth's in the middle, and sometimes you have a good game, but usually he's 9-10 points, which just doesn't cut it. So would you start Njoku over Laporta? John is asking. I would. I love the matchups for Njoku this entire playoff. This week he gets the Chiefs, who are one of the worst teams in the NFL against tight ends. So I like him. What are your thoughts?
Laporta is just too good. It would drive me crazy. I'd be full tilt. I think you make a good point. I don't think you're crazy, but I think the talent's too good there. I'd be killing myself if Laporta, finally went off. which he really hasn't done.
Yeah. He hasn't really done it all year, although I mean he has scored more touchdowns recently, but he just hasn't gotten there. All right, Eagles 22, Panthers 16. This was nearly a loss here for the Eagles.
Very close.
Xavier Legette catches the ball instead of drops it. The Panthers come away with the win, and suddenly the Panthers are looking a little frisky heading into now. Like obviously they're still way behind the Buccaneers, who have 7 wins, but at 4 wins, had the Buccaneers lost to the Raiders, like that would have been really interesting. With the Panthers coming on, because they play both Tampa and Atlanta down the stretch. Bryce Young continues to play better. He made a bad interception in this game, but he otherwise looked good with his anticipation and stuff like that. And like Adam Thielen has been just a PPR monster with Bryce Young, 9 for 102. Chuba Hubbard, good game against a really tough run defense, and he's another guy who has a very easy playoff schedule. I have Hubbard one of my leagues, so I'm going to be playing him. It's Hubbard and Pollard, and I think Connor. So like those are my 3 running backs. So one flex, obviously. And then the Eagles, there's some issues in the locker rooms. AJ Brown went to local media and complained about his usage, which I always fear is I feel is like overblown. Like there's a good chance they've already like kissed and made up.
Yeah,
and
they came out today and kissed and made up publicly today.
I think that this is a squeaky wheel gets the grease situation. I love AJ Brown this week against the Steelers. I know it's like not the most ideal matchup, but the Steelers have allowed some big games to receivers. Like we just talked about, Jerry Jeudy just scored a 35-yard touchdown and did well. I think AJ Brown could go off in this game. I love AJ Brown in every sort of facet this week in fantasy or DFS. So what are your thoughts on this game?
We talked about this last week, and I mentioned that I thought Bryce Young actually was playing significantly better. Football. I said, I was like, I think he's a top 20 quarterback in the NFL. I said that a week ago. Mm-hmm. And I watched this game, and this game was not the Eagles defense playing bad and just like them playing down. Like the Eagles defense was good in this game. Bryce Young was just really good in this game. And Adam Thielen was really good in this game. And the offensive line was really good in this game. The Panthers. So they were actually good. Again, they're not great. They got minimal talent, but like Bryce Young finally is playing. I mean, he was terrible at the beginning of the year, and it's like, wow. I mean, there was like, this guy's not going to be NFL a year from now. So he's come a long way in a very short period of time, and I got to hand him credit. I mean, that's awesome for him. The Eagles defense was really good in this game. Saquon Barkley was really good in this game. Obviously, if you have Saquon, he's a must start. Obviously, start all your Eagles. Grant Calcaterra is probably a tight end worthy start. I'm going to be starting him in my fantasy playoffs this week. So, I mean, I think he's got as good as upside as anybody. The Pittsburgh defense to me is better on paper than they are on the field. I think there's some weaknesses that can be taken advantage of. The squeaky wheel component you mentioned, the thing is like it wasn't like Jalen is not like he's just trying to run it. It is very obvious that Jalen Hurts at the beginning of the year he started turning the ball over. It is very obvious that at some point the coaches probably during the bye week just hammered home to him, do not turn the ball over, and we're going to win games. And because AJ Brown was well covered most of this game. Like he's double covered, bracketed, high low. The Panthers did a really good job of covering him. There were a few plays where you could see Hurts, but maybe try to rip one in there. But like in every one of those moments, there's a defender like looming, and you could just tell that Jalen Hurts is being ultra safe with the ball. And like barely he's had 1 turnover in 9 games, and they've won 9 games like consecutively. Like it is very obvious that the coaching staff said to him, take 0 risk with the football, unless we absolutely have to. And then down the stretch, he had to make. There were a couple tight throws to AJ Brown late in the game, so one of those is going to win out. Either the squeaky wheel is going to win out, or the coach is going to say, "Don't turn the ball over. Don't turn the ball over." And I get the sense that maybe we're not going to see a squeaky wheel situation because they've won 9 games in a row doing it this way. Of course, now that I say that, AJ Brown will come out and have 3 touchdowns.
Yep.
So, right. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. Like, I still start AJ Brown every week. I start Devontae Smith. Yeah, I wouldn't start. I wouldn't hesitate to start any of those guys. Right now, on the Panther side, man, Adam Thielen is maybe not quite a must start, but pretty dang close to that. He's playing really good football, and now that Bryce Young is playing good football, he can give you some big games on the stretch here. And so, if you're an Adam Thielen owner, if you own Adam Thielen, you probably also own other players that you may or may not want to start over. You might not want to bench them, but I'd be seriously thinking about Thielen down the stretch here. I haven't looked at the schedule the next 2 weeks, so maybe I should look at that before I say anything.
Yeah, they have a favorable schedule. So this week they get the Cowboys, and then they get the Cardinals, and then the Buccaneers. So just three defenses you can throw against. So it's pretty good for him. So you have to like that. Question from Stanley: do you think the Super Bowl will be the Bills versus the Lions, with the Lions winning the Super Bowl? I think Kenny's answer is no.
No.
I mean, I think if the Eagles get home field advantage over the Lions, I think they'll win. If the Lions get home field, I think it could go either way. The Bills have to be considered the favorite, the AFC right now, but things can change. There's still a few weeks. There could be injuries. The Chiefs could have a resurgence. Maybe some other team gets their stuff together. I mentioned the Texans as a team that could maybe resemble the 2008 Cardinals because they have a lot of talent, but they've just been goofing off lately because they've had such a big lead in the division. But I mean, that's the team that beat Buffalo back. Was it week 4 or 5? I think it was week 5. So they have the upside, and you can't count the Ravens out. Steelers have a good defense. Like maybe they could do it, probably not, but still, like they're going to be involved. So there are a number of teams, but I would favor the Bills. Like right now, I think I would say Bills Eagles, and I think I'd probably favor the Eagles by a little bit in that game, but it would be close. So let's see, Justin Herbert or Anthony Richardson to start this week. I start Herbert because Richardson's going against Denver's defense, which is tough, and Herbert's going against a pass funnel in Tampa, so seems like a good matchup.
And the floor for Richardson is always low.
Yep.
In a fantasy playoff game, I do not want to stake anything on Richardson.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
Even if Herbert had a bad matchup, I'd still go Herbert. I want no part of Richardson right now.
Yeah, I hear you. All right, Dolphins 32, Jets 26. I don't know how the Jets lost this game. Like they were up by double digits at one point. They were up 23-15 late. They blew it, and then the Dolphins won the coin toss in overtime, and they marched down the field. They ran the same play twice with Jonnu Smith bubble screens, where like Smith didn't even have a catch heading into that overtime, and then he caught 3 passes in overtime on that drive for 44 yards and a touchdown. Tyreek Hill continues his resurgence. So he had done nothing for a long time. Now he's had a few games in a row where he's produced well. So you have to be. I mean, if you're a Hill fantasy owner, you're probably not in the playoffs because he's done so poorly for so long. But if somehow you made the playoffs, then you're going to be more confident now. Achane continues to get there through the air, not on the ground, but still he scored a rushing touchdown. And for the Jets, the two things to note here: the first is the receivers. Both Wilson and Adams had great games. And Aaron Rodgers had his best game of the year. So if that continues and he has a good match against the Jaguars this week, then I would expect Wilson and Adams to continue to play well. And then the running backs, everyone expected Braylon Allen to be the lead back here, and he only out carried Isaiah Davis by 1, which was really surprising to me because he was worked in pretty heavily at times with Breece Hall. So I'm not really sure what the plan was here. Maybe they just don't even have a plan. But I don't know. I think that there's going to be a more separation between the two this week. I don't have any evidence to back that claim up, but outside of the fact that I think Braylon Allen is a better player than Isaiah Davis. So anyway, what are your thoughts on this game?
I did pick up Isaiah Davis in our league
Okay.
as a free agent just in case. the Jets situation is just tragic. Yeah, man, just crazy to think. Like Aaron Rodgers, like just toward the end of the game, looks like he's just disgusted and out of it. It's hard to know how to read them. Anyway, from a fantasy standpoint, there is no one on the Jets I want to start right now. Like there's not one player on that team I want any part of, regardless of who the running back is or what's going on there. And on the Dolphins side, there's only one player I want is Tyreek Hill. I don't want Jalen Waddle in my lineup. I don't trust him. I don't trust any of the running backs on that team. I don't trust Tua. Tyreek Hill is the only guy on the team. Of these two teams, only one guy that I trust to be in any of my fantasy lineups going forward, and that's Tyreek Hill. In DFS, I'm not even sure in DFS I want any of these guys either. In best ball, like there's not at least any of these guys I trust at all. At one point I would have said Jalen Wright, maybe have some potential upside into the playoffs or down the stretch. I'm not on that train anymore either. So yeah, if you abandon all these guys, with the exception of Mr. Tyreek Hill and his 10 children, other than that, yeah.
that 2024, that 2045 NFL draft's gonna be awesome. The Dolphins' schedule against the run looks great this week against the Texans, but then they play the Niners and the Browns, so it gets tougher for Achane. But he continues to get through the air, like I said. Like he is one of their primary passing weapons on the team. So, in a PPR format, I know you dog on PPR, but in a PPR format, because DraftKings is a PPR format for DFS.
I always forget about DraftKings and PPR.
Yeah, so Achane's a lot better there. So he does well. John Smith.
There's a floor there. There's a floor.
Yeah. John Sanders asking about John Smith.
The problem, John Smith didn't have a single catch in regulation. Not one catch in regulation. So, like, the Dolphins they had this incredible, miraculous last minute, 40 seconds down the field to tie the game, and then they get the ball, and John Smith gets 3 catches and a touchdown in overtime. So it's like he clearly was not a priority for them in the game. Like, they win an entire game without. I'm not even sure he got a target. Maybe he got 1 or 2, but like
he had one target. That was it.
So I'm not even like. So he's clearly not a priority in the offense. I can't trust that. Like it was such a crazy game and how it ended. That, for anyone who didn't watch it, I mean, the game is tied, and then last minute the Jets scored to get a field goal to take the lead, and then the Dolphins last second get a field goal to tie it, and then they go. I mean, it's crazy ending of the game. But you're just like, I can't rely on that. Like I can't. If John Smith scores 5 touchdowns this week, pour one out for him. Yeah, more power to you, bro. But I want no part of that guy.
Fair enough. Stanley says, I have a question for y'all. Why do you think some quarterbacks that play good in college, but as soon as they enter the NFL, they struggle and end up being a bust? I think there could be a lot of factors. First of all, they may not be good in the first place. The money could get to them. They could have a bad supporting cast. They could have a bad coaching staff, a bad scheme fit. There are a number of reasons, and it's hard to peg one. You could probably go through all the busts and point out why they busted. Go back to Ryan Leaf, who had he had some internal demons that that interfered with his ability to play in the NFL. Whereas Jamarcus Russell was just an idiot and just couldn't read any sort of NFL defenses, and he didn't even try. And then there are quarterbacks who just aren't talented, guys who get pushed up in the first round just because they're quarterbacks, and they really shouldn't. So I think
we have some guys that they're playing good in college and they don't perform, but that's because the requirement for talent is different. Like Jamarcus Russell is a great example. Like in college, because the defensive players are simply because they're college defensive. Like Jamarcus Russell, he's at he played at LSU, right?
Yeah.
He's going against defenses, although there's a lot of pro talent, and obviously he's playing against any given week, but the defenses are slower, and so the demand for him to be he had this rocket laser arm and could just throw the ball all over the field. That was sufficient to beat that quality of talent. When you get to the NFL, the quality of defender is better. So now your laser rocket arm is not enough. Now you need something else, and he never had that thing, and didn't have the work ethic to acquire that extra thing, the ability to read the defense. So some guys, Tim Tebow's the same way, right? Tim Tebow flourished. He had this. For Tim Tebow, it was the slow release. He had this, just molasses of an arm. Like he was like molasses in December. That's how his arm moved. And so you just so slow. But with the way that they structured the college game, you can get away with that. But you can't get away with that with the 4-3 safeties, right? 4-3 cornerbacks that are in the NFL. So I think a lot of it has to do with there are certain things required to be in the college game to be successful. There's just more required to be in the NFL game. And you never know who's got the ability to actually work hard enough. No one knew Tom Brady was going to be this. The guy just outworked everyone to acquire the deficiency of in his game. He worked hard to fix, and most guys are not willing to fix the deficiencies. They want to hang out in the hot tub, a la Blake Bortles or a la Matt Leinart.
Matt Leinart in the hot tub with Nick Lachey. That was that thing. Jamarcus Russell couldn't drinking of that purple drink. Remember that purple drink? Did a lot of stuff. Emmett on the brink with that. It was a lot of fun. All right, let's get to the next game. We had Saints 14, Giants 11. This was the one of the most epic backdoor covers you'll ever see, unless you bet the Saints like I did. Drew Lock got sacked. He was in the 3rd and 18 on the penultimate drive of the game. Then he gets the 4th and 10. He completes a 4th and 10, and then deep pass to Neighbors, and then they scored a touchdown, even though replay showed that Tracy wasn't in the end zone, so they just gave him the touchdown. And then on the 2-point conversion, there's a deflection at the line of scrimmage that bounced into the hands of a Giants player for the 2-point conversion for them to cover. So even if he had the 5, he couldn't get the push. So it was a very frustrating game, as you can tell. Frustrating for Kamara owners too. 17 for 44. Now he did catch 5 passes, 35 yards, but Kendry Miller came in and carried 10 times. If I'm a Kamara owner, I'm really concerned about this because the Saints are out of it. The coaching staff might be like, hey, let's see what we have in this Kendry Miller guy, and these games are meaningless, so let's not run Kamara into the ground and ruin him. So I don't know if he's going to get the full workload. Plus, they have backup quarterbacks now because Carr's out. So the defenses are going to be playing closer to the line of scrimmage, and it's just a rough spot here for the Saints. Not much to say about the Giants outside of Tyron Tracy outcarried Singletary 16-2, so you don't have to worry about that if you're despite Tracy's fumbles. And then Neighbors 5 for 79. He continues to be solid despite the bad quarterbacking and bad offensive line play. He's just a solid a consistent contributor. Whereas early in the year when they had the blocking and Daniel Jones, he had some monster games. You're not seeing those anymore. You're seeing 6 for 60, 5 for 80, 6 for 80. He just gets there, and PPR that's 14 points. So you're going to take that every time. So what are your thoughts on this game?
Everything you said was right. If you're a Giant, if you're a fantasy owner of any of the players on either one of these two teams, you can't feel good about any of them. There's not one. As much as I love him in league Neighbors and he's awesome, I don't trust Tracy at this point. We saw a goose egg a couple weeks ago. A goose egg is on the table. There's no one on these teams I trust right now. The thing you mentioned about Kamara a week ago, I would have told you you're nuts. At any point in Kamara's career, I would have told you that's ridiculous. He's a stud. You got to start him. Mm-hmm. Literally, this past week was the first time, and I've been one of the biggest Alvin Kamara boosters. I've owned him in every league. I feel like every year. I'm always higher on him than everyone else. It seems like I've got him in our league this year again. I have been one of the biggest Kamara fans. This is literally the first time ever in his career, in the 7 years he's been in the NFL, that I would say to you, maybe I consider benching him this week. And I can't even believe I just said it. This is a real dilemma for me. In our league, I've got, in the playoffs, first round of the playoffs, I've got Alvin Kamara, Joe Mixon, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Chase Brown. And I got to start 3 of them. Two running backs in a starting, and then one is my flex. I've got a real dilemma because do I put Chase Brown in over Kamara this week?
I would. I mean, yeah.
A week ago, I would have said you're nuts. No way. But I think I'm not gonna sleep much tonight. I'm gonna be thinking about it all night. That's not true. I'll be asleep. I'll be fine.
Hopefully that Captain Coke helps. Well, no, I mean you do have some time to think about it. I think of the running backs you mentioned, I put Kamara 4th there.
I can't believe it, but I think you're probably right. Which is I just can't imagine. I think the situation the Saints are in, I think you're probably right.
Is it more the quarterbacking, or is it more Kendrick Miller, or is it a combination?
I think it's a combination. I think it's both.
Okay. Yeah, I think so.
I think I think that those are both contributors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Chase Brown, take the young legs, as Slew points out. I agree with Slew. Chase Brown's awesome. He's like his workload is insane. He's getting all the touches, like minus like 3 touches a game from like Khalil Herbert gets. Like he's getting everything. And he's so matchup proof because or game script proof, I should say, because if they're ahead, they're going to feed them the ball. If they're behind, they're going to throw the ball to him. And we had both on Monday night, where they were sometimes ahead and they ran, or like when they were behind, they threw to him. That was an easy over receiving yards. I think he got there by halftime. So, I loved Chase Brown. I had a Raymaker Chase Brown card, by the way. Wish I could have profited off that. Unfortunately, it did not. All right, Seahawks 30, Cardinals 18. I think everyone was expecting Arizona to bounce back, and they did not. They were a huge disappointment. Trey McBride, look at the stat line, 7 for 70. He barely did anything for most of the game. Like most of that came late. Michael Wilson scored an early touchdown. Not sure, you can't really take anything away from that. Marvin Harrison, so 4 for 49. He's gotten a lot of targets recently. He has these ceiling games from time to time. But then he has this like 4 for 49. So like he can't be trusted in like weekly regular fantasy. Best ball is a different story though. You want those spike weeks, and so he's better in best ball. For the Seahawks, Zach Charbonnet looked like the second coming of Walter Payton against this Arizona defense. Like he looked awesome. Like not just as a runner, 22 for 134 and 2 touchdowns, 7 for 59 through the air. Like this guy did everything. He was like owned in like 80% of DFS lineups, by the way, because he was only 4,800. Geno Smith had a great game, only misfired 6 times. Jack Smith and Jigba continues to outperform DK Metcalf. I think it's like the 4th week in a row he's done that. Metcalf is banged up, by the way. Yeah, Metcalf is banged up. He's not healthy. So maybe when he gets healthier, maybe that flips. But right now, you have to start JSN over Metcalf, I think. So what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I think you're right. And if you're a Metcalf owner, you got to start. You gotta start wondering, like, do you really trust him going into your fantasy playoffs? If you own Metcalf, in all likelihood, you're going to start him. You probably don't have it's unlikely you've got options that are clearly better than Metcalf. Mm-hmm. But like, let's say you're someone you have Metcalf and some other good receiver, and then like you picked up Juwan Jennings off the waiver wire, and you're like you only start 2 receivers in your league. Like if you're in that scenario, if it's like Metcalf and what if you have Metcalf and you have AJ Brown and you've got Juwan Jennings. Like I don't know, like in that situation, I'm thinking twice about Metcalf, which I don't think I would have thought a couple weeks ago. So again, I don't think there's a lot of players in that scenario, but I do think there's probably some fantasy owners that own Metcalf that I don't know that he's a shoe-in absolute must start in my fantasy playoffs, which I just can't imagine. I would have said that a few weeks ago. That's kind of how I feel. Where JSN feels like a must start, right? If I've got Metcalf and JSN and AJ Brown, I think I'm going JSN and AJ Brown. I don't know. Am I crazy?
No, I don't think you are. I think that JSN is. I mean, he's been so consistent recently. It started when Metcalf was out. So like he had some big performances, but ever since Metcalf came back, like he's still been the big producer. And like I said, Metcalf is injured right now. I don't think he's 100%. And so like if it suddenly changes, if he's suddenly 100%, then I think there's a chance that he outproduces JSN. But we don't know if he's going to be healthy. It's just tough to say when he's going to recover. You mentioned Deebo Samuel earlier, like, and we'll get to him in a second. But he has not been 100% since he battled pneumonia in the middle part of the season. He just not like properly conditioned right now. So that's someone. It's like another guy that you just like. He's super talented, but you just can't start him at all just because of the injuries and whatnot.
It's a really tough, really tough situation. If we will get to talk more about him. I think
that Bagley summed it up very well. I totally nailed my draft. Like everyone loves their draft after it's over, right? There's not a single person who hates their draft once it's complete. And then you're like, oh man, like who do I start? Like Bailey or Metcalf, right?
Man, it's rough. On the Cardinals side of things, I would not want Marvin Harrison Jr. in my lineup for like I said it all summer. He's being way overdrafted. He should have been a 4th round pick at best, not a high 2nd round pick. It's ridiculous. Rookie receivers should not be drafted that high. It's just too much risk. I don't think I want anyone from the Cardinals except James Conner in my lineup. I don't want any of the receivers. I don't want the quarterback. Trey McBride. Trey McBride. If he's my tight end, obviously you want him. Tight end, such a gross position. He's one of the few guys that are actually reliable. Even though he's had some goose eggs himself, I would still trust. I don't know. There's not a lot of good options at the tight end position anyway. So, but I want no part of Marvin Harrison Jr. in a fantasy lineup in a must-win game.
Yeah, like I said, he's better in best ball, but in weekly fantasy, just not someone I have any interest in. Should I start Addison or Ridley in my flex this week? Well, I mean, my answer because I'm betting on Addison to get 100 yards and a touchdown. So, I would go Addison over Ridley. Any thoughts here?
Yeah, I guess no offense to top M&K, but I'm not even sure this is close for me. So it's to me it's Addison.
All right. So Seahawks or Vikings a better bet for the Super Bowl? Just asking for my Jets friends. Now Kenny is not a gambler by any means, but I will give you the odds. And the Vikings are on FanDuel. They're 17-1. Seahawks are 50-1. So you got to take Seattle there, right?
Oh, from a value standpoint, it's the Seahawks.
Yeah. If they were both even, if they're both 17-1, and you had to bet $1, if someone pointed a gun at you, they're like, bet $1 now, or I'll shoot you. What would you bet?
Would they do it with that voice though?
Maybe would it change your mind if maybe it was a girly voice?
Either way, regardless of the voice tone, it's got to be the Vikings. I don't think the Vikings are going to go to the Super Bowl, but I mean, they're gonna have some home games. They're not gonna have a first round bye. I guess it's not out of the realm of possibility they can end up with a first round bye. I mean, I don't think it's likely, but it's possible. I think the Vikings' path to the Super Bowl would likely be easier than the Seahawks.
Well, we know they're going to be in the playoffs. That's the key factor here. Like we don't know if Seattle's going to be in the playoffs. They may not win the division. So they get the Rams in the final week of the season. That could be for the division. Maybe the Niners storm back. They looked great last week. And Sue says I bet the Seahawks. Yeah, at 50-1, I would. If they're about 17-1, then I think I'd take Minnesota just because we know they're in the playoffs. Right. So anyway, next game is Rams 44, Bills 42. This game was wild. And as someone who had a Bills +9 in a teaser, I was sweating this one out. Like Bills +9, you feel like would be pretty safe, right? It was like, man, I might lose this. And by the way, a push is a loss in a 4-game teaser. So that was a pretty rough one. But Josh Allen, the first quarterback or first player to have 3 passing touchdowns, 3 rushing touchdowns, single game. I feel like he somehow strengthened his MVP consideration despite losing this game. With that stat line, is pretty insane. Shakir was awesome. He's been consistently like 6 for 60, 6 for 70, 7 for 50. But he broke out in this game. But as John pointed out, Kincaid is coming back, so there might be some regression. Amari Cooper, though, 14 targets, 6 for 95. So it wasn't like an amazing stat line, but 14 targets is definitely something to watch out for. It could be a sign for things to come. As far as the Rams are concerned, Nakua continues to be amazing. Cooper Kupp bounced back from last week's poor performance. Kyron Williams got into the end zone twice. It was like the usual suspects for the Rams. Let me ask you a question here, Kenny. So Jamar Chase is first in end zone targets this year. Who is second? It's a player from this game.
A player from this game is second in the NFL in end zone targets?
Yes.
Ooh, interesting. Second in the NFL in end zone targets from this game.
Yeah. It's crazy. I was shocked.
It's interesting. Okay, is it Shakir?
No, he's on the Rams.
Oh, it can't be Kupp or Puka. Like, is it that obvious?
It's not, because they've been out for a long time.
Yeah. Okay. It's got to be one of their schlep backups. I don't know which one. Tutu Atwell?
Demarcus Robinson.
Oh, the other schlep. Okay.
It's crazy, isn't it? Somehow like he didn't have a catch, but he got an end zone target again that like put him into second place. I don't know. I don't know. Like, you could read into that. Like, maybe he catches some touchdowns. I don't know. For some reason, Stafford likes going to in the end zone. Something to watch out for is that. So it was funny. I think Bagley brought up Davis Allen earlier. Davis Allen might be out on Thursday. Higbee's gonna be out again. Colby Parkinson might be the only tight end active on the Rams. And so, I'm not talking weekly DFS, like, no way. But for DraftKings Showdown, I think he's only like 2,000 or 1,600. So if you need like that cheap piece, like once again, to get to all the other stuff, which I think is more prevalent in Showdown, just because like there are only so many guys who can score. Then Parkinson might be worth a look there. But anyway, what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, first of all, man, I feel like I've said this multiple times. There's so many guys on these teams that I don't want to start. I'm like, I think I've eliminated like most of the league, like in this podcast. For the Rams, like it's Puka, but even Kupp, Kupp is. I mean, he's in a better situation than Metcalf, but like I think some of the rationale I used for Metcalf earlier, I think applies to Cooper Kupp as well. Like, it's possible that someone owns Cooper Kupp and owns like some other, like, it's possible that someone could own Cooper Kupp and I don't know, Devontae Smith and Jerry Jeudy, and like they got to start 2 of 3.
Yeah.
That's not clear cut for me for Kupp. Like, okay, that's a like, or someone could own Juwan Jennings and Kupp and someone else. So anyway, all that to say, Kupp might not make, maybe the flex is the the cheat there, obviously, but I think Puka to me is a clear starter. Obviously, Kyron Williams, you're going to start. Kupp in most situations, but maybe not. And there's no one else I want on the Bills. Shakir and PPR, I trust. Man, I'm not even sure I love James Cook. Like, I mean, I don't know. Like, the floor is low for him. Like, no red zone touches is on the table. Obviously, Josh Allen is still must start and is probably the league MVP. And the Bills are probably the favorite for the Super Bowl in my mind. Although there's a guy that lives in the Midwest that wears number 15 that might have something to say about that. But I think from a fantasy standpoint, man, there's some superstars in this game, but there's some guys I want no part of going to my fantasy playoffs. Just from a football standpoint, though, this is one heck of a game to watch, man. This was, if you have Game Pass, this is a game worthy to go back and watch. In fact, I was out last night at a restaurant, sports bar in Claremont, Florida, which is west of Orlando area. Good old redneck suburb. Anyway, there's a lot of those in Central Florida. I was at a good old redneck bar, and I think they were replaying this game, and I watched the whole thing again. It was so entertaining. It was so fun to watch. These are the types of games where you go, oh, this is why we watch football. It was just so freaking fun. Now, if you're a fan of one of these two teams, that had to be miserable because the emotional back and forth, you probably couldn't. I'd have a heart attack. But as someone who's not a fan of either team and just a fan of football, this is one of the most entertaining games. We actually had a few of those this week where I just thought just from a football standpoint, this was so freaking fun to watch.
Yeah, this one's great. Jaguars 10, Titans 6 was great. We had, we had a couple great ones. No, what John's saying, yeah, Bill's playing from behind, so James Cook didn't do much. Despite being a good matchup, but he has a tough matchup this week against the Lions. So after that, it gets easier. But this one to start the fantasy playoffs is tough. So if you have a bye and James Cook, you're sitting pretty. But that does Green Bay have a good slot cover corner to cover Smith and Jigba.
They play a lot of zone, though. It's a problem with them.
The Packers have done well against the slot. The last time a slot receiver has exceeded expectations against them was Week 5. They just limited Amon-Ra St. Brown. So it's not a great matchup for Smith and Jigba for sure.
Yeah, they don't have a corner they don't have a slot corner that plays over the slot the whole time. They play a zone.
Yeah.
But the thing with the Jigba though, Jigba moves all over the place. Like he's not just a strictly. I mean, I don't know what the stats are, but he's not strictly a slot cornerback. He's playing on the outside as well. They're moving him around quite a bit.
Yeah. All right, let's get to the last of the late afternoon games. We have 49ers 38, Bears 13. A lot of people thought the Bears would hang around and maybe win this game. I was one of them. I was dead wrong about that. Niners from the jump looked like the far superior team. Like it just wasn't even close. Brock Purdy bounced back, only 5 incompletions. Isaac Guerrero looked great until he got hurt at the end. So might be Patrick Taylor. Just watch out for that because we don't know yet. George Kittle had a monster game. It's like very unusual to see Kittle have a great game when Trent Williams is out because he has to block a lot more. Maybe they realized they're like, hey, we have to get Kittle out there, especially with Devo just not being healthy. So it was a good idea. So hopefully they do that more. Jennings was awesome, 7 for 92 touchdowns, and then he gets the Rams this week, who he just abused in Week 3. I believe you played against me in that game in our fantasy league. I remember Jennings just going off, and then I picked up Jennings when you cut him a few weeks later. And then for the Bears,
now I'm starting Keenan Allen as my third receiver.
Yeah, your team would be a lot better at Jennings around. There's nothing to say about the Bears outside of like how stupid could they be? And I guess like if they're losing, if they're trying to lose on purpose for draft positioning, maybe it's smart. But we saw this with the Jets. The Jets made a huge mistake when they fired Saleh. Not firing Saleh necessarily, but promoting your defensive coordinator to interim head coach means that he's too spread thin and he's not coaching the defense as much anymore. So the defense faltered ever since they moved Ulbrich to head coach. And the Bears had to have seen this, and then they moved their replacement offensive coordinator, who was doing a good job with Caleb Williams ever since the old offensive coordinator was fired. Then they moved him to interim head coach, and suddenly the offense is defunct and no crap. Like of course, like they're going to get worse. So the Bears are an automatic fade for me the rest of the season. I think they're going to struggle the rest of the way, which is unfortunate because I picked up Keenan Allen a lot in these recent week best ball drafts because he has an outstanding fantasy playoff matchups. Like all the games the Bears have in the playoffs, those teams can't defend slot receivers. So he would look good. But I don't know. I feel like the Bears just might struggle for the rest of the year. So what are your thoughts on this game?
I look at the Chicago Bears and think to myself, I don't want to start any one of those guys on my team. But I don't want any part of that. That includes the running backs, because I just think that you said there's a potential for a total fade down the stretch. That DeAndre Swift, 8 carries for 26 yards is on the table, and I don't want that. Then I look at my roster in our league, and I see Mr. Keenan Allen, and think to myself, surely I've got a better option than him, right? No, I don't. My other option here are my receivers. If you're interested, Keenan Allen, Antonio Brown, Zay Flowers, and MVS.
Antonio Brown.
What was that?
You said Antonio Brown?
Sorry.
You have Antonio Brown. How are you the third
Brown.
seed? You have AJ Brown. Okay.
AJ Brown, not Mr. Frozen. Oh, sorry. I had a brain fart there. I don't know how I ended up in this situation.
I got distracted by Antonio Brown. Can you repeat the reverse?
Sorry. So I got Keenan Allen, AJ Brown, Zay Flowers, and MVS.
Okay.
I don't know how I got in a situation where my fourth receiver is MVS. I don't know how that happened.
You only have 4 receivers on your team?
Yeah.
Oh wow, we only start 3. I mean, we have to start 3, so you only have 4 receivers. That's crazy.
I mean, at one point I had 7, I think, at the end. Yeah. So I mean, I think I'm not sure. I mean, there might be some waiver wire guys, but man, I mean, Keenan Coleman is on the waiver wire. Legette's on the waiver wire. Tim Patrick's on the waiver wire. Maybe him. I don't know.
I don't know if I trust any of those guys over Keenan Allen. I like I said, Keenan Allen is a good matchup this week, so maybe he does well. Like Odunze did do well despite the loss. Like he scored 2 touchdowns. Maybe it's Keenan Allen scoring 2 touchdowns this week. I'm actually I'm looking at the waiver wire myself. Maybe I should. I'll pull it up for you guys if you want to give Kenny any suggestions here. I'm going to sort by ESPN projection. I'll go on. Those are quarterbacks. Receivers. So we have Keon Coleman, Sterling Shepard, Marvin Mims, Romeo Dubs, Keyshawn Butte, Michael Wilson, Xavier Legette, Diami Brown, who looks better with Noah Brown out, but not. I'd still rather go Allen. Yeah, I think like all these guys, I'd rather go Keenan Allen. I don't see anyone. I mean, maybe there's a late week injury and someone opens up. I'm not seeing anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you're stuck with Keenan Allen.
Yeah. I mean, I think. Yeah. I mean, like you can make an argument for Tim Patrick, or maybe Josh Palmer. I guess you could make an argument for. But,
if McConkey's out, I think Palmer. You could definitely make an argument for that.
Yeah. So, yeah, kind of a mess I got myself into here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you still have a good team. It's just one weakness. Like I said, Keenan Allen, good matchup. He could do well. So hopefully, for your case, he does do well. I'll be rooting for you. I root for my friends in the playoffs if I don't make them. So I was just out of the playoffs. I needed 2 guys to lose. In this final week, I scored like the second most points this final week. I needed 2 guys to lose. They both won, so didn't work out for me. But like I said, I made the playoffs in the other 2 leagues, so 2 for 3 is not bad.
I needed, you're thinking about fantasy positioning. At some point in this league, I had other receivers, but then I'm letting them off because I was trying to get running back. I like to play keep away, so I picked up Patrick from the 49ers, and then I just dropped him tonight because he plays on Thursday night. I dropped him, and then he won't hit waivers. He won't clear waivers in time, so he won't be available till the next. So no one can have him over the weekend. I knew I wasn't going to start him, but I didn't want anyone else to start him. So anyway, that's my. So I have a lot of running backs on my roster because I'm playing keep away.
Yeah, that's smart. Does Saleh get another head coaching job? I don't think so. I think he'll be the Niners defensive coordinator. It's my guess. I think he'll go back to San Francisco and be the coordinator. We had a coaching question. If you're the Jets, would you rather have Vrabel or Ben Johnson? I would almost always have the offensive guy, unless it's like a huge gap. Because if you have a defensive guy and like your offensive coordinator is great, someone's going to hire him, and then your quarterback's going to have to go through a transitional period. Plus, Ben Johnson is there's an unknown factor. Look, I love Vrabel, but Ben Johnson has so much potential. I would go with him. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the point you made about the defensive, if you're the defensive-minded guy, you have a great offensive coordinator, you're inevitably going to lose him.
Right.
So, yeah. I mean, even if you're an offensive-minded guy and you have a great offensive coordinator, you're going to lose that guy. So, yeah, I think just the way the game is, there are very few guys, though, that would make me pause on that question, and Vrabel might be one of them. Ordinarily you go, yep, offensive guy, slam dunk. but Vrabel is such a good coach. I thought like I would pause at least before I called Ben Johnson.
Yeah, same here. I still don't understand why the Titans fired him. That's like a clear downgrade to Brian Callahan. Like, good job, Tennessee. Good job downgrading your head coach. All right. So 2 more games. Chiefs 19, Chargers 17. Chiefs were up 13-0 at halftime. Looked like they were cruise control, and then of course they almost blow the game, and they do the bare minimum to win, as they've done every single week since playing the Saints. The Saints the last time. Will come through. Oh no, they beat the Niners by 10. So ever since they beat the Niners by 10, they've done the bare minimum to win. As Evan said, they're in at 9 o'clock. They're out at 5 o'clock. They're not logging any extra hours. They're taking the full hour lunch break. Like they're barely doing anything work, barely doing all the work. So this is who they are in the regular season, and I suspect in the playoffs they're going to do better. But their left tackle situation is bad again. Like they started Humphreys, and there was some hope there, but he played poorly, and then he got hurt. So I guess they're back to square one, or as Emmett would say, back to square zero. I don't really know what they're going to do here. They do get Marquise Brown back soon. We don't know if he's going to be healthy, but he can't hurt. For the Chargers, McConkey was out, and Palmer went off. And then nothing from the running game. But here, so I teased earlier my super cheap DFS play. It is Stone Smart, who is 2,600, is fantasy tight end. Will Dissly's out. He went 3 for 54, and he gets the Buccaneers, who are very leaky to tight ends. Like one of the worst tight end matchups, great matchups for tight ends. One of the best in the NFL this year. So Stone Smart, 2,600 tight end. What do you think? And what are your other thoughts on this game?
I mean, that's the ultimate. Oh, it lets me get to other guys. I mean, that's the ultimate 2,600 for a tight end, and now I can have a lineup that's stacked elsewhere.
Yeah.
Even though Stone Smart probably still gets you 1 catch for 6 yards,
right?
Which is worth 1.6 points in DraftKings.
Right.
It's about what you pay for. Yeah, I mean, 1 catch for 16 yards or 2 catches for 12 yards, and he's paid off, right? I mean,
and look, like he's an athletic guy. They during the broadcast they talked about how much they liked him, the coaching staff, and if Dissly's out, like if Dissly and McConkey are out, like they don't have that many options. Like Stone Smart, if he has 3 catches for 30 yards, I'm at 2,600. I'm happy with that.
Yeah. This game was entertaining to watch because I just love Patrick Mahomes. I mean, I don't know. Brett Favre is still probably my favorite player of all time. Just like pure entertainment value. I think Brett Favre is probably still at the top of my list, but Patrick Mahomes is in the mix. Just love watching him play. Randy Moss might be in that conversation, but
Jameis Winston.
What was that?
Jameis Winston, is he in the conversation too?
He's not quite in that not quite in that category. He's entertaining this year. He's my favorite player this year to watch.
Yeah,
but not an all-time category. But Patrick Mahomes, he's fun to watch. This team, from a fantasy perspective, I don't want any of these Chiefs. I don't want any of them, including the quarterback. I don't want anyone of that squad, which is crazy to think. They are 11 what's the record? 11-1? No,
12-1.
12-1.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy to think that this team is 12-1, and they have, the best, maybe the best quarter, arguably one of the top few quarterbacks to ever play the game in his prime. And I want no part of any of these guys on a fantasy team right now. I mean, it's a remarkable thing to consider. Yeah. It's crazy. The Chargers, Justin Herbert is a start. I like your tight end play. I actually, from a DFS perspective, I think it's really good, particularly in a not in a cash game, but excuse me, but in a GPP or tournament, something like that. I think it's a smart play. I don't know what the ownership. I'd be curious to see what the projected ownership is on him. So I wonder if there are other guys, if there are other, what percentage of DFS owners are thinking what you're thinking. That would be my only question.
So for me, I'll say this: like I usually play the $100 SPY, which is single entry, and that generally has like 5,000 entries in it. as opposed to like the 300,000 in the regular millie contest. So I'm not too worried about ownership in the SPY. You know what I mean?
The ones I used to play.
Yes.
um, yeah. So I think your situation, the Lad McConkey being out. If Lad McConkey's in, he's unless you have great options, he's going to be in your starting lineup. But if he's not going to play, there's no one on this team that's rock solid. But you've got some potential upside, like Josh Palmer. Like I don't know, 4 catches for 90 yards and a touchdown is in play. Like of course, 1 catch for 6 yards is in play as well. It's really really high upside. If McConkey's out, somebody on this team is going to score. I think. Who it's going to be, who knows? But worth considering.
Yeah. I mean,
if you're in season long, you probably don't want to touch that. But in DFS,
right? And like they are throwing more ever since Dobbins got injured. They were a run first team, and ever since Dobbins got injured, they've been pass first because they know that Gus Edwards is. There's nothing there with Gus Edwards, and they for some reason they don't trust Vidal. He's a rookie, but still, how do you not give Kamani Vidal carries over Edwards or anyone carries over Edwards? Edwards just sucks. Like it just doesn't get you don't get anything with him at all. So, yeah, I mean it could be Palmer, could be Smart, could be Johnson. Will Disley looks like he's gonna be out. Maybe DJ Chark sees more work this week.
Once upon a time, I thought DJ Chark was going to be a All-Pro player.
He was trending that way. He's regressed every year. It's been remarkable. I know injuries have played a factor in that, but his career trajectory has been so disappointing. All right, so we had Bengals 27, Cowboys 20, Monday Night Football. This was a super bad beat if you had Dallas +5 or 4.5 or 5.5, whatever you had. Because Dallas was it was like 20-20 for a while. Dallas had multiple leads in this game. And of course, like there's a block punt with 2 minutes left. The ball like trickles down like 20 yards downfield magically. It hits a Dallas player. The Bengals recovered. The Dallas players, as Evan pointed out on Tuesday, didn't even know the rule. They thought they were still going to have the ball. So it kind of reminds me of McNabb not knowing about overtime. It's remarkable how some players just don't know the rules of the game they play. But I mentioned this before. Doodle, 18 for 131 against this Bengals defense. The Bengals defense is so bad. They just allow a ton of everything. They can't stop anything at all. They have Trey Hendrickson, but that's it. They have on defense. Like their secondary is so barren. They lost all their talent. And they can't stop the run. So there's a lot of opportunities here, even against Tennessee this week. Like I feel like some Tennessee players are going to go off. So I in DFS I would want to play either Pollard or Ridley against the Cincinnati defense, like one of them, not both, but one of them. But anyway, but the Bengals look great against this Dallas defense. Burrow went nuts. Jamar Chase went insane. Chase Brown 6 for 65 through the air, 1458 on the ground. He was awesome. Like I said, his receiving yards prop got there by halftime, so that was nice. Higgins didn't do much, 2 for 23. So maybe he bounces back this week. It's usually like when one of those guys goes off and the other one does nothing. Usually there's like a reversal of some sort. So I'm not saying like you play Higgins over Brown or over Chase, but Higgins I think would be a better play, and I wouldn't be too worried about that in weekly. So what are your thoughts on this game?
First of all, the way this game ended was one of the most fun watches ever. Because listen, there's only one thing that's greater than watching the Giants lose, and that's watching the Cowboys lose. I don't know. They're both pretty glorious. What a great. Was that Leon Lett, by the way, playing this past week?
That's brutal. Like Parsons stormed off the field. Did you see that?
He is so glorious. All my Cowboys friends on Twitter and Facebook were complaining. I slept so good. It was so great. It's such a great ending. I mean, it wasn't quite as great as the greatest quarterback of all time, Nick Foles, winning the Super Bowl. But I tell you, it was close. It was close. So it was so great. Okay, from a fantasy standpoint, CeeDee Lamb, I trust. I still don't trust Doodle. I don't trust anyone on that offense. I want no part of anyone on that offense. Goose eggs are always on the table. Cooper Rush is terrible. The Bengals, obviously, you're starting your guys. This team is an enigma. This team's unbelievable to me. So, if I were to ask you this question, Walter, if I would ask you, what is the record of this team? Ready? I'm going to give you. What is the record of this team? This team has the quarterback that leads the league in passing yards and leads the league in passing touchdowns. And this team has the wide receiver that leads the league in catches, receiving yards, and receiving touchdowns. This team has a running back with the 15th most rushing yards in the NFL. And this team is 9th in sacks given up in the league. The 9th fewest sacks given up. What would the record of that offense be?
I mean, it's like greatest show on turf. It sounds like, like,
this is the Cincinnati Bengals. This
Yeah.
is unbelievable. Chase Brown, 15th in rushing. Jamar Chase, number 1 in receiving yards, receiving touchdowns, receiving catches. Joe Burrow leads the league in passing yards and passing touchdowns. And the Bengals haven't given up a lot of sacks. 9th fewest sacks given up. That was kind of an Achilles heel in the years past. How is this team so bad? How is it possible? How is this team barely beating bad teams like the Cowboys? I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. The Bengals have totally wasted a prime year of these guys.
Well, you didn't mention the defense at all.
Well, of course.
That's the issue. And it falls on ownership primarily and the front office for not being able to replace him. And you built a website about this, the capisfake.com, where you talked about how the salary cap is fake in that if teams want to stack their team with talent, they can overpay these guys and they can go over the salary cap in a sense, just like backloading deals and whatnot. Right. But the caveat is if the owner doesn't want to pay extra, then it's not going to happen. And the Bengals owner just doesn't want to do that. And historically, the Browns have never wanted to do that. So that's why they've allowed so much great defensive talent to leave. They allowed Jesse Bates, great safety, it's gone. Chidobe Awuzie, number 1 corner, gone. DJ Reader, amazing run stuffer plus pass rusher in the interior, gone. Like they've allowed a lot more talent than that to leave too on the defensive side of the ball. And they still have their great offense. Who knows? Like Higgins could be gone. He's a free agent, coming up, so he could be gone too. But the defense just primarily, like I said, primarily falls in the ownership for not wanting to pay. But it also falls on the front office for not being able to replace them with good draft picks. So it's like it's a double whammy there. This is why the Bengals are 5-8. It's because the defense cannot stop anyone. They allow Rico Doodle to rush for 130 yards. There's no reason Rico Doodle should rush for 130 yards against anyone. Right. But he ran for that against the Bengals because the Bengals can't stop anything at all. So.
It's unbelievable to me. When I saw the stats, I thought this can't be right. This can't they can't stop anyone on defense. They're bad against the run. They're bad against the pass. And I'm starting to get the feeling that Joe Burrow. I'm more and more starting to have the feeling that Super Bowl run might be the only thing we ever see from him in his career.
I think he's going to be the Archie Manning of his era. With a great quarterback, but just no success in the playoffs at all. And I think that playoff run, I think you're absolutely correct. That was a fluke in that he was still under the rookie contract, and so they could afford those great defensive players. But after they resigned him, they couldn't afford those guys anymore, so they had to let him go. The only way they get back to that is if the front office nails those draft picks. That's the only way. But they haven't done it.
It's easier said than right. Yeah. I mean, it's easier said than done. It's hard to do.
Yeah. It's very difficult. Even nailing just one. They have to nail several because they're just not they're letting way too much talent go. It's not like one guy here and there. Like they let 3 Pro Bowlers go like in the span of the past 2 years, and they have not replaced them, like not even close. So
they've made. I mean, they even made a valiant effort too. Like they're just fine with it. So.
Yeah. Yeah. John's terrified the Bengals getting 17. Yeah, you have to be, because Burrow could just go insane any game.
What's their realistic chance of getting the 7th seed though?
Well, here's the thing: like they're 3 behind the 7 seed, but they're also 3 behind the 5 seed, because 5, 6, and 7 are all 8 and 5. So they only need one team to implode, and that team could be Denver, because it can't be Baltimore, because Baltimore swept them, so they can't catch Baltimore. But they lost to the Chargers too. But Denver, if Denver starts losing, they play Denver in a couple weeks. So really, they're 3 behind, but they're really 2 behind. So they need Denver to lose a couple games. They win if they win out, and Denver loses 2 games in addition to the game they have against them, then they can get in. It's pretty low. I'd say single digits. What's Denver's schedule? I know they play the Colts this week. Then they play the Chargers, and then the Bengals, and then the Chiefs. But the Chiefs could sit their starters in that game. So that's the issue there. So they probably need the Broncos to lose to the Colts and the Chargers, which is possible. I mean, they're only favored by 4 against the Colts. They're going to be underdogs in LA. It's a night game. It's a Thursday night game. And then they play the Broncos-Bengals week 17. That's the big one. So if the Broncos lose these next 2 games and the Bengals win these next 2 games, it's going to be very interesting week 17 for them to get back into it. So they have a chance. It's 3%. John says 3%. Yeah, sounds about right. I would have guessed like 5%. But yeah, they could do it.
I think it's 8.125%.
I was like, let's say the How I Met Your Mother rule. Like every time Barney said 83%, there's an 83% chance like he was making it up, because that was his go-to number. That like every time he was lying, he said 83%. So 83% chance they're gonna make the playoffs. So you're saying no to Doodle versus the Panthers run defense. You would not play Doodle against the Panthers run defense?
I would not. I mean, you'd have to have some really rough options on your roster. If Doodle's your best option going into the play, you're probably not in the playoffs.
Here's the thing about Doodle. That's a good matchup, but first of all, he's not that talented. I don't mind him. Like, I think he could do okay. My worry here is that the Cowboys could just give up, because they were practically eliminated from the playoffs with this loss. They needed
a demoralizing loss, right?
Right.
Totally just
like Parsons marched off the field. I would not be shocked if they just get destroyed, like annihilated Carolina, because the way Carolina's been playing against like these superior teams, like they almost knock off the Chiefs, they almost knock off the Buccaneers, they almost knock off the Eagles. If Leggett catches a touchdown, they beat the Eagles. I actually asked this to Evan yesterday. What if, like, because Hubbard fumbled in overtime, like they were in position to kick the game-winning field goal in overtime against the Buccaneers. Like, if Hubbard doesn't fumble and if Leggett catches the pass, they're 5-8 suddenly, and like beating Tampa and Philly, and like they're just looking like a powerhouse right now, like a team that like the people on TV, but like no one wants to see this team in the playoffs, even though they're not making the playoffs, they're like no one wants to see this team right now. They could be that team right now, but the fumble and the drop, like it's funny how like 2 plays, 2 mistakes just like changes the mindset of everything, But and Stu bringing up a good point. Did the Cowboys even have an offensive line left? Yeah, they lost Cooper Beebe, their center. Zach Martin already hurt, and Tyler Smith's dealing with injuries. Like this team is pretty ravaged by injuries on the offensive line. So they lost the center. So yeah, it's even though like it's a good matchup on paper, it's not like a great spot for Doodle. I don't mind him, because like he can, like, especially in PPR, because he can catch some passes. I don't think he'll flop. I think you can get like a decent performance out of him, but I like there almost have to be better options for you on the table right now over Doodle. So all right, guys, that's about it for this show. Thank you so much for watching.
Oh man.
Yeah, I mean we're almost 2 hours. We could discuss what is the anemones? What was it called?
Enneagram.
Enneagram, yeah. Anemones.
I feel like we just got started. Okay, it's an hour. It's because it's what happens when you drink rum.
Yeah, it's I mean it's almost 2 hours. Stanley said, "Hey, Walt's official. Bill Belichick is going to UNC. Why does he go to college instead of the NFL?" Well, I think that Belichick wanted a situation where he could make all the decisions in the front office, and I just doubt that any team wanted to allow that to happen because, while he did have some great picks, he also had a lot of bad draft picks as well, and I don't think there was a situation out there where he would have had that opportunity. So
particularly
maybe
on the offensive side of the football.
right. So I like yeah. I just think that was the deciding factor there. So does Kenny have an opinion on the college football playoffs since he doesn't watch college football?
Not really. No, I mean
No.
I'll watch some games because it's the playoffs. I watched the Big Ten championship game. I watched some other game I fell asleep watching when I'm anytime I watch inferior athletes I fall asleep. No, I've watched a few games this past week. I watched the Michigan Ohio State game. Michigan won that game a couple weeks ago. I watched the Georgia game that Georgia just won. Who they beat? I don't remember who they beat.
Texas.
Oh yeah, Texas. The overtime game. I watched that. That was entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I watched a little bit. Again, very little. I'll watch playoffs. I actually think the playoffs are going to be exciting. I mean, guys, I'm a casual fan, and so for me, I've only ever watched the playoffs, or I only typically watch the playoffs, which means there's more for me to watch now. So I'm going to watch some. I'm going to watch the first round of games. I'm looking forward to watching Indiana and Notre Dame. I've got it. I put it on my phone. I'm like, I want to watch that game.
Nice.
I want to watch Penn State play. I want to watch I want to watch the SMU. Whenever they play, are they actually as good as people say they are? Or is it controversial that they're in? So I think this is great for college football because it's pulling guys like me in, which is what they're hoping for.
Yeah, it's so mind-boggling that they didn't do this earlier. It just waited so long for college football to have a playoff, and
Now,
even
are the bowl games incorporated in the playoffs somehow? Like, are the certain playoff games happening in bowl games?
That's a good question. I don't know. I haven't really paid attention to that, but I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Maybe someone can answer that, but I don't really know. I never liked the bowl games anyway. I just didn't care, and it seemed to lose all meaning because remember the Rose Bowl was always Big Ten winner versus Pac-12 or Pac-10 winner, whatever it was, and you'd always have you'd have Penn State USC or Ohio State. Who else? Or Oregon, for example. You'd have those sort of matchups,
Wisconsin and UCLA.
Yeah, but now the Pac-10 joined the Big Ten, and so in the Big Ten championship, you had Penn State, Oregon, and I joked yeah, this is the Rose Bowl, right? This is not the Big Ten championship.
This was the '95 Rose Bowl,
right? So it's a little silly, and
Kerry Collins is playing quarterback. I heard no.
Yeah, Kerry Collins.
He's still on the team. No.
Kimmy Eagle, $4.99 super chat. Thank you so much,
Kim. Let's go.
Really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Please toot for the Rams +9 and Bills +9. So he has this in the teaser. Is it the same teaser, Kimmy Eagle? I seem to remember it was two different teasers. But no, I will be rooting for that. I do like the Niners in the game tomorrow. Niners -2.5. It's actually up to 3. I know of a gambling syndicate gave out Niners at -2.5 pretty heavily, and I think that's why it moved to 3. But +9 seems good because even if the Rams are behind, Stafford can always throw a late touchdown to get within the number. So I like that. Bills +9 I like a lot more. I think the Bills win this game. Okay, he says same one root. Yeah, we will definitely root for Rams +9, Bills +9 for you in this teaser. So. Good luck. Good luck with your bets. Everyone, good luck with your bets. Bagger says 2-team playoff, boo-hoo. The 3rd team got robbed. 4-team playoff, boo-hoo. The 5th team got robbed. 12-team playoff. Yeah, 13th got I mean, that happens in college basketball. Where you're like the 37th at large is oh man, how's this team not in? They were 8 and 9 in their conference. It's okay, just calm down. Don't care. So the team's not winning anyway. I think it's the right number. I think 12 is pretty cool. I think you could go to 16, I guess, but 12 is nice because the 4 best teams get a bye, which they deserve to get a bye if they're one of the 4 best teams. So I'm really looking forward to it. Especially watching the draft prospects and stuff. It's gonna be great.
I'd be curious to know like how the the quarterfinals and semifinals will be bowl
Okay,
games. Okay,
makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. So like the Peach Bowl or the the Rose Bowl will host a particular playoff game, or the Orange Bowl, the Sugar Bowl will all have.
All right. Yeah. So okay. Yeah. So yeah. Thank you for answering that. So all right, guys. Like I said, that's it for this week. Good luck with your fantasy decisions. Good luck with your bets. We'll be back tomorrow with Andy Isco, as usual, about 15-20 minutes after the Thursday night game is over. So looking forward to seeing what Andy has to say about that. Ducks are in the Rose Bowl. Yeah, they. I still can't believe, like, Penn State, Oregon as a Big Ten championship, or that's so weird. Anyway,
it's a Rose Bowl matchup.
yeah, right, exactly. All right, guys, please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video. Visit the link in the description for the merch store. All that would be appreciated. Kenny, do you want to tout anything? Any final thoughts, or want to talk about the capisfake.com?
Capisfake.com. Check it out. If we alluded to what the Bengals disastrous ownership did, you can read more about why I think owners like that are ruining the game and cheating their fans. So check it out, thecapisfake.com. You can follow me on Twitter as well, X, excuse me. I'll be saying Twitter for the next 10 years.
I know, same.
I love Elon, but I think that was stupid. Anyway, you can find me on X at the Capisfake. And I don't do as good of a job of trolling as Walt does, but I do try my best.
I love my trolling. I had an interaction with some guy, and like is like he's like yelling at me. He's like all you do is like have over emotional responses on here. I'm like, what are you talking about? And then he blocks me. Wait, talk about over emotional responses. I never got the point of blocking people. I always thought that's stupid. I don't think I've ever blocked anyone. I have muted people who have given spoilers on TV shows that were live. Like, remember Game of Thrones used to be on? Like, people would like tweet out stuff during the show. I'm like, all right, come on, man. Like, I just mute them. I've never blocked anyone. I never got the point. Like, who cares? Like, what? Like, it doesn't matter. I don't know.
I block some people because I'm just like, I just don't want this person in my feed. Like, I don't want this garbage, whatever this is.
You can mute them though. That's the thing. Like, if you block someone, you can't see what they post, or they can't see what you post, so like they can't retweet you or something. Because like that could always happen. Like, they could just retweet you, and you get more exposure that way. But like, if you don't want to see what they say, I would just mute them. You know?
No, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I forgot the mute feature.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, bots and scammers. Yeah, I think I've blocked some bots, but like real people, no, I've never done that. So, all right, guys. Like I said, we'll be back tomorrow. And yeah, have a great night, and I'll talk to you then.
You the man, Walt.